Everyone, Cam Roberts here. I'm joined by my good friend and business partner in Business Reinvented, Steve Plummer. Steve, you there, buddy?
Hey, Cam, how you going? Hi, everyone. And just for the record, don't throw to me today for the title, all right? Because I'll probably muck it up again like last time. So today, Cam, what are we talking about?
Today's title, it's my turn to stuff it up. No, today's title is the 2 things that you must do in business during a recession.
Cool. All right, we hear that. The 2 things you must do in business during a recession.
Yeah,
fantastic. In business, yeah, absolutely. All right, do you want me to lead off, Cam?
Yeah, mate, you throw it off. Let's go.
All right. Okay, so just a quick couple of comments too. If you're watching the replay, can you type in replay? If you're watching live, type in live. Love to see exactly whether you're joining us live or you're joining us at a later date. It does help us with a whole lot of metrics and things like that. So, Cam, the title again: the only 2 things you should be doing in a recession.
The only 2 things that you need to do in business during a recession, Steve.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So I am going to go back to the future here. And to basically, I can recall the great Peter Drucker, his famous words when what was this, late 80s, early 90s, the exact time escapes me, but he said, business has only 2 functions, marketing and innovation. These produce revenue, all others are costs. And I'm sure anyone listening to this who's been in business for any length of time, has heard that before. But, when you think about it, business has only 2 functions, marketing and innovation. And you might say, well, what's that got to do with a recession / a global pandemic, a COVID kind of thing? And, it's, and I think the other thing with that, it's a fair question I'll get to in a second, but the other part of that, Kim, is I think when people hear the word innovation, they think that it has to be something, done in a lab with all this research and testing and this big budget and all those sorts of things. And certainly you can do that. And if you've got an electronics company, an IT company, that's the sort of thing that you're doing. But, for your average business, it doesn't necessarily have to be that high tech. And I just want to, I want to give an example of that. I've got a friend in Melbourne who coaches a cafe in particular, and like all cafes when COVID hit, business basically dried up, right? Because they weren't allowed open, people weren't allowed in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So business just stopped. So there's no point saying, well, marketing and innovation when everything just shuts down like that. Well, hang on a minute. That's not what these guys did. And, just between you and me, and they were $30 off last week on turning over $92,000 for the week.
That's a good cafe, isn't it? In the middle of, let's look at it. In the middle of COVID, right, when the government's putting restrictions on cafes, you can only sit half the amount of people in, you can only do this. A cafe goes and does what, $92,000 in a week?
Well, not quite, just under that, a tick under that, right? And their rent is now something like 1% of their turnover. It's just incredible. And you might go, well, hang on, how did that happen? Well, first thing was innovation, and then they market their innovation. Those 2 things, and they've just done now they did have some advantages, right, in that they are, I believe, there might be one other, but there's only one cafe within their sort of estate. So they've got a reasonably captive audience. So, okay, you can take off a bit of the revenue for that. The other thing they did, they actually had a chef as part of their team. So that allowed them, to do things a bit differently. If you've only got casuals with you, that's going to impact you. But, the lesson is still there. So what they did take-home meals, take-home meals, with limited contact. That was one thing. They did special, obviously they still kept their takeaway coffee going. They ran a competition to get people's phone numbers and email addresses. Why? Marketing, right?
Innovation,
so they've got to market their innovation. And so things like when it was Mother's Day, they did special dinners and things. It was National Donut Day, Friday of last week, I believe it was. Well, it's interesting. I didn't, and called into a Krispy Kreme on the way home from somewhere, and I felt sick all the rest of the day. Like, but what the heck, you've got got to take one for the team. But these guys, they were doing packs of 6 gourmet donuts at $29, and they sold them out by 11 o'clock, for National Donut Day. So they were moving with what was going on in the lives of people by providing dinners, by providing special baskets and hampers and things for Mother's Day, by providing big packs of gourmet type donuts to respond to things like National Donut Days, and doing all of those things in a compounding effect. And they were SMSing out all of their new lists. They were emailing all of their new lists saying, hey, we've got this special on, come on, reply to order yours, or come and get yours on your way through, kind of thing. And so this particular business has just done innovation after innovation after innovation after innovation. But Cam, it wasn't about expensive, outlandish stuff that it wasn't beyond the realms of what they were doing. It was just a different way of delivering a service that met the need of the people within their area. And it's easy to dismiss that by saying, well, gee, we don't have a chef, or we don't have a captive audience like that. And just the principle, though, is still the same, right? What can you do differently now? In other words, innovation that you weren't doing that is still aligned to your service that people are likely to buy. And then what are you going to do to market it? So it's just those two things that Peter Drucker said, 30-something years ago. So it is that kind of circle back to the future. What are the two things you should do in a recession? Look at what the great man said all those years ago. Innovate, market, those two things. And it has worked beautifully for that particular cafe. So what can you do in your business to innovate?
I think what's really instructive here, Steve, and the lesson that we can all take away from that is that there's a big difference between innovation and revolution. We're not saying to people you need to make a 180-degree revolution in your business. You don't need to create a new cafe. You don't need to redo your cafe and refit it out again. It's not anything new. It's just innovative, isn't it? It's just those one or two little clicks that can make all the difference if you get them right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the positives of this whole COVID thing, right? Disruptions are fertile ground for innovation. Out of necessity, it gets you thinking. And I've said this many times before, in life and in business, you are like a tree, right? You're either growing or dying. So what's happening to you in this fertile ground for innovation in a recession? My challenge is, are you growing or dying? And Cam, it might even be something as simple as, if you've had to cut back on staff and things like that, maybe you outsource some of your marketing to a Facebook ad agency or something like that. That might just be a form of innovation. To get your message of your new products and or services, or your new level of products and or services out there. So do you have a premium range in your products? If not, maybe this is the time to be introducing those. Do you have a lower end of product that is more affordable? Maybe this is the time to be looking at that principle of innovate and then market the innovation. I think is truer today and more important today than at any other time.
Yeah. And there's one thing I'll add to that metaphor about a tree. You're either growing or you're dying. I used to say to my athletes when I coached, swimming and triathlons, that even if you're staying where you are right now, you're actually going backwards. Because by staying where you are and by keeping the same, the competition's getting ahead. Inflation rises in business. So in sport, it was like the competition's going to get better. So if you stay on the same time, your results are actually going to get worse. And so it's the same in business. So if you keep turning over $1 million a year, or you keep turning over $200,000 a year, like that won't be the same in a year or two's time. Rents will go up. The cost of doing business goes up. So it's, in business, it's even more important to understand that you can go backwards in business, and no one wants to do that. But even if you stay the same and you don't innovate, you will get progressively worse. Your profits will decrease, your expenses will rise. And so by nature, a business should be more organic and more proactive about growing and innovating, especially during a recession, but even in normal times, because otherwise, as I said, staying the same means they're actually going backwards.
Yeah, I think too, Cam, understand that innovation drives that forward motion to ensure that you're not dying. You know, you mentioned that inflation goes up, costs go up, etc. But also a COVID could hit, or a recession, or a competitor could move in next door or around the corner, or whatever it might be. So that innovation is really important to drive that that forward momentum. I think another part of that, Cam, too, is really showing your superior performance, you know, in what you do. And that's almost like an investment in the bank. You know, if you can show people that you are, what you do is better than the competitors, you know, better than others in the market, because of who you are and what you do, that's a really good investment in customers for when things turn around. You know, if you help them out when they are struggling, they will stay loyal to you as well. So part of your innovation might very much be that, you know, what superior things can you do to create that kind of, you know, lasting impression on people, you know, because there's I love that saying that people won't often remember what you do or say, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right.
And if innovation is about coming up with different ways and new ways of making people feel good, and it probably gets back to what we were talking about last week, the copy cuddle in a way. If you can make people feel special in a way, or feel valued in a way, you know, that is going to stand you in good stead, you know, moving forward and to navigating the way through the recession, and you know, as we come out the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been some really good takeaways, Steve, but we like to keep these things short and sweet, under 15 minutes. So anything else you want to add before we wrap up? No, just keep trying different. Look, probably one other thing, and this is a success secret too, I think, is be uncomfortable with uncertainty. No one knows what's going to happen. You know, and it's easy to become a deer in a headlights kind of thing when things are going tough. You know, the fear can take over, but you know, there are no guarantees in life. Nothing is ever certain. So embrace that uncertainty and have a crack. You know, try different new things, you know, new ways. And, you know, you might try 5 different things and only one might work, but it might be the one thing that changes everything. You know, it's often not one thing, as you know, Cam. It's often a series of things that you've got to do to, you know, no one thing makes an aeroplane fly. So, but, you know, just if you keep trying different things, keep innovating, you know, that is helping that forward momentum and that forward motion. Yeah. And never stop marketing. You know, now's not the time to pull back on marketing. And we also said that the other week, like, now is the dumbest time for anyone to go, well, I'm just going to pull back on marketing and not do my Google ads, not do my social media.
We're just going to ride this out, Cam.
Right? That is the dumbest thing anyone can do in business, right, is to try and ride out a wave, you know, that's coming towards you. So we just encourage anyone to do it.
Yeah, I think, Cam, what that is doing is that's looking for some sort of certainty. Well, I know these are my little costs. You know, I know I can stay there. But, you know, growth is not in that certain circle. Growth is in that uncertainty, that place of uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Steve, thanks for another great bit of broadcast. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you'd like more information about what Steve and I are doing together and want some help with your marketing, or just want some coaching, go to businessreinvented.com.au. You can fill out a game plan form there, and we'd love to have a chat with you and help you put a marketing game plan into your business. So go ahead and take us up on that opportunity. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Cam. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.